Hello, everyone. Welcome to the discussion on the topic restoring sexuality. We have with us a group of very interesting, like minded people who have lived, survived the path of sexual brokenness, and found their way to transformation and healing. So, to start off with, can you talk a little bit about why are we talking about sexual brokenness and what is the need for the topic?
So, whatever struggles we have in the area of sexuality, um, we are not able to be vocal about it. We cannot share it with anyone. And that does affect our relationship with uh, our spouse, our family, and everyone, the immediate relationship we have, or you call it community or whatever. I mean, our struggles does not just stay with us. Like usually people say, that's my problem. How does it affect others? It does affect yourself and as well the immediate relationship. And people often miss to see that it has its implication on their immediate relationship. And because it affects your self dignity, and because it affects your self dignity, you would not have a good opinion of yourself. When you don't have good opinion of yourself, you would not be able to relate with people with a healthy connection, and that does affect your relationship. So it has multi-dimensional effect in your life. When you struggle in your sexuality, it has multi-dimensional effect. So like we used to see, you would have done this lab in your when you were in high school, the prism thing. When you pass on a light through a prism, it comes out with multiple spectrum. Like that, the sexual struggle have its implication in multiple spectrum and different aspect in our life. So it is, from my opinion, need of the heart to get into that and fix, or we should be curious of what is happening within us, so that because God is willing to restore us completely, he wanted us to live with a wholeheartedly. So I think it is the need of the heart to do that.
And the identity of who we are, from where we come, what am I going to do, why am I like this, feeling completely alienated from others, what's my need, and the feelings behind it, everything comes into question. So getting curious and see why it's happening. I think it's very important now to see what's happening in our life and why we are like this.
And like Saravanan said, people are feeling shame. People are full of shame when they are struggling with certain unwanted sexual behaviors, or when they are struggling with certain addictions, and they were not able to, verbalize it. They are feeling shame about it, and the church is not ready to teach them about sex, and the our family parents are not there to help them, uh, to teach them what is sex. So because of that, and the kids are not, finding the family as a safe place, and they are not ready to open up what their struggles are, and so much of shame are being attached to that. So devil is trying to use that as well, since he cannot abolish the sex part completely. He's trying to mar the beauty of it. He tries to twist it. So there are so many layers of damage are happening. So in order to come out of this shame, only when we talk about it, or only when we become vulnerable and speak about it, the grip of the shame, gets loosed, or it's get broken. So it's really important, and we are in the crucial hour to talk about it.
And to break the generational cycle, to someone has to stand up and break that cycle, right? We can't carry from our past and we can't carry it forward and give it to our children. So we are in a position to stand and break that cycles, so that it doesn't, our generations, upcoming generations, they don't have to go through all these things what we went through. So I think it's very important to talk about it and see.
It is very saddening to see that for a issue that holds a lot of importance, right? It is damaging people's life so badly that they are not able to come back to restoration. They don't know how pathways to take in order to get back their identity. So for a issue that is that bad, for us to keep quiet about it and push it under the carpet, it is very very saddening to see that as parents we don't address it with our children. As religious communities, we do not talk about it to our children's. So why do you think there is this secrecy that is attached to it? Why do people, even culturally speaking, why do you think there is this shame to not talk about it to another individual?
Before addressing that, what I think is why fundamentally we have to talk about this is precisely because our fundamental identity is sexuality. Usually derive our identity from the job that we do, right? I'm a teacher, I'm an engineer, or I'm an actor. But our fundamental identity, the Bible says God created them in their own image. He created them as teacher and an actor. No, created them as male and female.
And female.
So the fundamental image-bearing capacity, bearing the image of God, is revealed in we being male and female, which is our sexuality. So, since sexuality is being the fundamental identity of mankind to reveal the image of God. So, who God is, what's the image of God? It takes the male and the female to come together in union to express the full image of God. So that's how sexuality is very important. And since it is that important to God and to mankind, it has become important to the evil one as well.
Yeah.
And he attacks it. It is like how if we cannot attack someone big and powerful, we attack their kids. The terrorists attack the kids. That's how the attack is on sexuality. It is an attack against God. That much sexuality is important to God. And the best way to attack something is to attach shame to it. So the moment you attach shame to something, you stop talking about it. And when you stop talking about it, shame becomes powerful. Every day it becomes more and more powerful. Every day you keep silent about it. So the 3 rules of shame, according to one author, is, all of us have shame. None of us talk about it. And the third is, the moment we talk about it, shame loses its power.
Yeah.
So at the root of every addiction is shame. Shame is the power of driving force, the engine horsepower, the fuel power of every addiction. That not just substance abuse or anything like that. Even any destructive behavior in your life, there is shame attached to it. And as long as shame is attached to it, there is no way of we getting out of it, as much as we hate it.
Yeah.
So we would hate it and we will feel shameful about doing it and not being able to do anything about it. And that increases shame and that pushes us further deep into this. So that's the secrecy about it. So, yeah. And people who talk about these things come from either a very religious angle or from a very, so-called progressive angle, in which there is no no such thing as healthy sexuality. Anything goes. So both paradigms of right and wrong, and seeing sexual brokenness as something sinful, to be punished, to be shamed, um, and on the other end, to say everything is okay, nothing is wrong. Both approaches towards this topic has done equal damage. So a healthy kingdom perspective of what healthy sexuality is, what God's idea of sex is, and why, how brokenness looks like, and how do we approach it therapeutically, it's such a need of the hour.
Where do we hold both the end tight when it comes to sin and addiction? Because the sexual struggle we have, I mean, many, for many of us or many of the people, it is an addiction. As much as we say, we need not put it in a right or wrong paradigm. Neither we call it, we don't put it under a basket, everything is okay. So how do we maintain the tight
So
balance between
therapeutic.
sin and addiction?
So therapeutic is the lens. So when you approach everything from a moralistic lens, that's where you see it as right and wrong, and and judgment becomes punishment, or shame becomes a tactic. Therapeutic is medical term. It's healing. So seeing sin as sickness. Even the word sin, hamartia, is, even though traditionally defined as missing the mark, it is more like missing your form. Yeah, right. Living below the design. So that way, broken. If you use sin in that definition and see sexual brokenness as the thing is, in one of the books, the author says, it's not that we want too much sex. It is that we want too much of anti-sexual behavior. Right? So God's mind is sexual, meaning God created man in his own image, and he created them as male and female, meaning God created sexual beings in his own image. So masculinity and femininity is very much within Trinity. Both masculinity and femininity is within Trinity. And for him to be fully expressed, he needs both the male and female. And so God is so much committed for sex. And any expression of sex and enjoyment of it below the standards of what he has in mind is missing the mark. So the sexual brokenness is about we experiencing sex at a lower level than what God wants us to enjoy sex. So holiness is you enjoying sex as per design. Sin is you bringing sex any notch lower than that.
Having that idea of saying that sex is God's idea itself is so,
So what's that word? So
relieving, should I say?
relieving.
Yeah, because there's so much of stress on the fact that we can never put these together.
Yeah,
These are
there
like
is so
so
much
far
shame
away.
attached to it.
Put God and sex together.
Yeah.
We are struggling to imagine that God's mind is sexual, because there is so much shame attached to it, and we ourselves struggle to weave ourselves in a good lens. So when you say God's mind is sexual, we are not, can't even imagine or comprehend in our mind.
So the usual theology is Adam knew Eve came in chapter 3. That means that is after the fall. That's why sex is after the fall.
Okay.
But if you see in Genesis 1:26 and 27 itself, the Bible says God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply. So being fruitful and multiplying, and the two shall become one flesh, was very much in the first 2 chapters. And I don't think Adam getting up and looking at Eve and saying, oh, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, we are no longer two and we shall become one flesh. And he said that and said hi, bye, and left. Right? So I don't think this whole idea that sex is after the fall is anywhere closer to biblical theology. Throughout, Bible, God has always honored sex and marriage and the sanctity of it. That's the whole beauty of it. So sex is God. When we say sex is God's idea, we are saying God is committed to beauty and pleasure, so much so that he has created very healthy and safe boundaries so that he can maximize beauty and pleasure for us.
Can you elaborate that more? Because even the pornography or the prostitution are including the God's idea.
Why pornography and prostitution is not healthy sexuality, and it is why anti-sex, even though it
As the element of
sex, why it is anti-sex is because it mars beauty and pleasure. Right? So
They say, right, every lie has some part of truth in it. So even these things have some part of that twisted, truth in it. So I think that's why.
You remove the context of self-giving love from anything that you do, then it becomes abusive.
Yes. Yes.
The self-giving love comes in the context of covenantal marriage. So God put it is like you going on this jolly ride. So I've been to, one of my hobbies is to go travel the world and go to roller coaster rides. My next thing is to take Saravana along with me. Saravana loves it. The dopamine rush that I have going through it, he has it looking at it. And so, but imagine you going and sitting in a roller coaster ride and the guy comes to buckle you up and you're like, no, I want to have maximum fun. Don't buckle me up. Right? So you're going to just take off like that and boom, you're gone out of the park. Right? So that safety buckle is not to restrict pleasure for me. It is to maximize pleasure without killing myself. So how do you maximize pleasure without killing yourself? That is God's boundary around sex, and he kept it in marriage. Self-giving, covenantal, knowing way. That's the act of sex we are talking about. But when we say sexuality, we are not narrowly defining it only with the act of sex. We are talking about an identity of self and relating to others.
Yes.
So how we define sexuality is your relationship to yourself and your relationship to others. These two put together is your sexuality.
Okay.
And nowadays there's a lot of confusion. Who am I? I'm feeling this way.
So they confuse sexual orientation with sexuality. Sexuality is what you're born with. It is a biological fact. Right? You're a male or a female. Sexual orientation or sexual attraction varies based on so many factors, which we'll explore probably in the coming episodes. But sexuality, by definition, is biological. You're either male or female, but then it is not a very, what's the word? It is more than that. It is about your relationship with yourself, your identity, yourself. Yourself is formed. They say, I don't know whether you guys have come across this term called mimesis. Mimesis is a psychological term which means reflection. So right now there are a lot of studies into mirror neurons and how mirror neurons happen, and so much so. So the identity of self is formed through mimesis, through the child reflecting whatever the child is saying. So the sense of self itself is not isolated experience. It is a relational experience. So that self again interacts with the relationship through which it is formed, which is community. So these two things, a self being formed through relationship and that self that is formed again engaging with the relationships, these two things form your sexuality. And since it is deeply, deeply and intricately relational, any difficulty in relationships affect your sexuality.
So the parents playing a vital role here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anybody who is having access to the kid can either break it or
Make it.
make.
Yeah.
And the kid doesn't know the difference, like when the dopamine is high and whether at the same time feeling good and feeling that pleasure, and I don't want that weird feeling. The confusion happens when it happens very young.
Yeah.
That someone sexually touched them or inappropriate.
Yeah. So talking about dopamine and all these things, that again tells how sex is God's idea. Right? How we are hardwired for feel-good hormones. You know, dopamine, oxytocin, or anything for that matter. All these hardwire for pleasure and pleasurable organs like clitoris and all these things tells how much God is committed to pleasure and beauty.
That's true.
And when a mother feeds a baby, oxytocin is released both in the mother and the baby. They did this experiment with a rat. Whenever the mother rat licks the kid ratlets, lot of licking happens. These opioids are released. And so as far as humans are concerned, hugs and kisses and celebrations, and somebody said like this, we all come into this world looking for someone who is looking for us. That's the reason every child, even when you're in the cradle, you open the cradle, you see the child, looking into the eyes, right? Wanting to be seen. Can you imagine abandoning that baby? And that baby just keeps looking at the ceiling. There is no one reflecting joy. I'm so joyful looking at you.
I have this experience because my kid is 1 year old.
Yeah.
And he always, whenever we leave the kid alone and we do the works, he started to feel cranky, or he'll just look for us around. He'll come to us. So he wants to be seen.
Yeah. They make the whole world come down just to be, noticed and paid attention to. So that's true.
So since it is God's idea, and there is so much beauty, and from God's eye, God considers it's an holiest thing, part of us, part of humanity, and it's the most beautiful aspect of our life. So that's where even devil comes very hard on that part of humanity. Like, he cannot create something like
He can just twist it.
how God created it so beautifully and gave it to us as a gift. Looking at it, he cannot create something like that. So he decided he should go hard on
Twisting
that
it,
on
marring
that
it.
part of ourselves and twist it so that we would not be able to enjoy it or hold it for ourselves and say, this is God's gift, I'm going to enjoy it. So he mars the beauty and he brings the same, and with that same, we ourselves started condemning ourselves for having that arousal or feeling or thoughts, whatever. And that same held us in captive for years. But the moment we came to know, oh, this arousal is a gift from God, it's like, I mean, at initial stage, it is very hard to believe that it's a God's gift to us, that arousal is God's gift. So this is what happening. Like, devil can't create something so beautiful like that. So it comes hard on, twisting it so that we would not be able to enjoy it as a gift that is given to us from God.
I think that is the standpoint from where we can say that the sexuality that was given by God, which was so pure and beautiful, was broken, right? By the action or the role of evil in it. So, talking about that, can you talk more on what is unwanted sexual behavior and what are some things? Is it just to do with our physical, biological needs, or is there more emotions that are involved in it? And how can we define it?
Yeah, so when we say unwanted sexual behavior, we are saying any behavior that would make you reduce the standard of sex that God has in mind is unwanted, right? But it doesn't start with the act of sex usually. So the sexual brokenness, that's not where it starts. It starts with a broken sexuality, which is to do with a broken childhood.
Broken relationship.
Yeah. So sexuality is identity of self and relationship, right? So when we define it like that, so broken sexuality starts much, much, much early before an abuse, sexual abuse or introduction of porn happens to you. That's the connection that people fail to see.
Yes, for me personally, it was that sexuality itself is broken. It's an eye opener for me. Okay, my identity is broken. The God-given identity is open, and sex is God's plan and God's idea, and it's God's given beauty. When we see from that point, everything get changed.
We start to celebrate.
Yeah,
it.
celebrate ourselves, our
Yes,
body
yes.
and our emotions and feelings and everything. And when you said about it's not about the acting out sex, so is it something very strong with our emotions? What about the emotional thing apart from the physical? How does it affect? How deep is it?
See, that's what I'm saying. As far as your brain is concerned, your brain doesn't know the difference between an act and an imagination. So if I'm going to say, I want you to imagine lime, okay, I'm just squeezing it, or you're taking the lime and squeezing it in your tongue, okay, so what's happening? Right? So there is no lime, nothing here, but the moment we imagine it, something is happening to our body. So this is to do with imagination. And then talking about emotions, joyful, there is a body posture. Depressed, there is a body posture. And fear, there is a body posture. Anger, you feel all those things in your body. Shame, you're feeling it in your body. So thoughts, emotions, everything are directly impacting your body. So sex is multidimensional. It is never unidimensional. It's just my body. Oh, I'm thirsty, I'm drinking water. I'm hungry, I'm eating food. Oh, I want sex, so I go and sleep somewhere. It's not like that.
My body, my rules. That's what we hear.
Yeah. My body, my choice. All these things are just nonsense. So here's the thing, it is very spiritual, very emotional, mental. So when all those elements are engaged together in a loving relationship of knowing a person, and then your nakedness is a gift that you give your spouse. And when it is like that, that sex is so different from any so-called progressive celebration of what sex is.
And this everything, it should be taught to a child from the parent, all this information. And when it doesn't happen in that place, so the child gets broken. And when the child becomes an adult, and it increases, right? The USBs, the unwanted sexual behavior, it doesn't stop. The more we go into that cycle, the more we feel that shame and guilt. It keeps on increasing even after marriage. Is it after marriage or it gets?
Yeah. Marriages just amplifies all these sexual brokenness. And the problem is, when it comes to unwanted sexual behavior, there is truckload of shame, and they think it's about the act that they have done. So when we talk about unwanted sexual behaviors on the outside, we talk about porn, sex chat, buying sex, prostitution, affairs, and sexual fantasies, reading erotic novels. For women, it's more to do with fantasies. For men, it is more visual. So all these kind of behaviors is where the shame is attached, and they think that's a problem. And what should I do to stop doing from that is where the whole thing revolves. And the traditional approach to those things is put a pop-up blocker and have accountability partner, where this app tracks your, what to say, porn site visit, and tells a friend that he's visiting. So then people who are having that pop-up blocker, they started using social media. If you go to the reels and just keep pushing, you'll get some erotic content. So then they said, why don't you include social media also into that pop-up blocker? So the lust management systems never work, because it is all trying to put barricade. It is like keeping a huge ball underwater. You have to constantly keep putting pressure to keep it underwater, and it's going to slip up and keep coming up, and it is so tiring. And when people have been there for years, they feel like something is deeply flawed with them, something is fundamentally wrong. So these are the problems with traditional approaches.
And
It doesn't
of course,
address
when we
the reason, right?
Yeah.
They don't go deep and why it's happening.
when we talk about what just pastor said, we must also talk about how it is being dealt in faith communities.
That's a
There is so much confusion, because they take an approach of lust management by
Spirit of lust.
casting out the spirit of lust, be it anything. Like, it is more of like suppressing your thoughts, your arousal, or even condemning yourself for having it.
I was just going through the YouTube today. Sorry for cutting you through. So it goes like, and see if I can find that. Oh, I put it on airplane mode. Basically, it says, I rebuke the spirit of porn and masturbation. All right. Spirit of porn and masturbation out of you. So when you come from that approach,
it only complicates the whole issue.
See, I had this experience when I was doing my college. I went to one of pastor and told him that I'm having this struggle of watching porn. He made me to kneel down. He laid his hand and he said, I rebuke the spirit of lust. I rebuke the snake spirit. I command you to come out. And I feel like...
So for me, this verse, if your eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out. So masturbation, eye is causing, penis is causing, hand is causing. So, at the end of the day, all you have is your tummy left when you cut off all the things. So all these kind of approaches towards lust and that doesn't mean that demonic spirits are not involved in tarnishing sex, but how they do it is the important thing.
So does that mean we should become curious about or curious about
Why we are doing what
why
we're doing.
we doing it, and we should learn to listen to our lust? Is that what?
So there was a example that I saw in a video recently, where people are constantly picking up people from a river or ocean. Instead, to go to a place where we see from where are they falling inside it on the first place, right? To addressing the reasons behind, to understand where it all started, right? I think that is where people are missing to go to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the helpful approach, as Sarana said, helpful approach to unwanted sexual behavior is not judgment and condemnation. It is not resolution. I'm not going to do it. It is curiosity. Oh, interesting. So this is what's constantly I am trying to do, and I'm trying to run away. Where did it all start? How did it all happen? And while going that approach, and when we define sexuality as self, identity, and relationships, where do we start other than asking them the question, other than asking them about, tell me about how your parents treated you?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true.
And that's where our shame
Pain
it's-
point is
yeah,
shame
yeah,
is.
our shame is
So when people come and sit in my office talking about their sexual brokenness, and then I say, okay, tell me about your childhood, tell me about your parents' marriage, often the first look is, I'm here talking about my porn.
Yeah, my
Wh-
problem.
why are you even asking about my parents' marriage? And usually something comes up about their parents' affair and their violent marriage, them fighting with each other, one leaving. So all this mess comes, and they think, oh, and two lines they would tell, and the third line immediately they would change this thing. You should not think bad about my parents. They're very good people, and they have gone a long way. They come from a very struggling background. They were financially struggling, but they worked so hard. So they start talking about all these things. They'll switch gears and go, I've given too much information about my parents to this guy, and he might think bad about my parents, and they immediately shift gears into protective mode. This happens every time. And so I always tell them, I'm not going to judge your parents. I'm not going to think them as bad people. I'm just wanting you to see something. So tell me more. And when they talk about their parental systems, whether it is a rigid system or a disengaged system, and then how these dysfunctional family systems break the sexuality, the self-identity, and the capacity to relate. And then how those brokenness, they keep looking for things, and at such a scenario, abuser walks in, or a porn is introduced, or something happens and sexual arousal happens, and how the sexuality along with the sexual expression also gets twisted.
Yeah, when it comes to uh, identifying the factors that led you to the current behaviors, I mean, unwanted sexual behaviors, there are 6 core drivers that might have led you to this place, the current struggles that you have. Say, for example, under dysfunctional families, we categorize like rigid family system, disengaged family system where the care is, I mean, not given,
Neglected.
neglected, and you have abandonment, like you have not experienced your parent, the way the child is supposed to experience, but you are left behind, or you have had a severe abandonment issue, and the traumas that we go through as a child, and sexual abuse, and emotional investment and triangulation. I mean, one thing, I mean, we don't usually consider that as an issue at all, like emotional investment and triangulation that we have with parenthood. So these are the 6 core drivers that leads anybody to the current unwanted sexual behaviors. When we be curious about, as pastor told, when he hears the story, he told that he would ask about their parenthood, because these are the 6 co-drivers that generally lead people into the current struggles they have. So it is very vital to uh, look from this angle, go through all these drivers and see where they can relate with them. I mean, where they can relate their stories with these drivers, so that they would be able to pinpoint, okay, this is where it all started, and this is the reason why I'm here.
Yeah. Talking about this, we also experience the fact that most of our parents, they don't really know the need for giving the child that emotional support, that love and care, that the touch or the hugs that we need to be told you are beautiful, you are doing great in life, or giving those affirmations. Most of our parents are like, I give you food, I give you good education, I give you a place to stay, and that's about it. You're doing well. So how do we say that being a parent that we've all experienced is not good enough for a person to, be complete and whole, even in the case of sexual brokenness itself?
When parents, when we personally, for me, when we don't receive those affirmations, those words from you are beautiful, we see you like this, we love you like this, and those hugs and kisses, when we don't get that, we start searching from some other places. For me personally, it was like that.
Yeah.
When I don't get those affirmations, eventually started searching for the places where I find that
Yeah,
joy.
disengaged
Yeah,
family system.
when it's being, parents are there, at least one parent will be there, but not completely into that family. uh, they give those basic needs, the food and shelter and clothes and everything, but emotional support and what a child needs, when a 3-4 year old child, what she or he needs. So from there the sexual brokenness start. For me it was like that. From very young it started. From there started seeking attention from everyone, so that I'll, people will see me and tell that I'm beautiful, tell that you deserve that love or that touch and everything.
Yeah, and also the fact that they are providing us with all of these things make us feel in debt to them somehow, and wanting to, pay them back by being good, being a child who they can, look up to and say, I'm proud of you. We constantly keep, pushing ourselves to gain those words from them,
I think
right?
we should start with rigid family system. I mean,
Yeah. So the result of rigid family system, when we say, before talk about the outcome of it, how does a rigid family system look like, is where rules are used as weapons, and where lot of control happens, lot of threat happens, things are managed through punishment or reward, and my way or highway kind of a thing, and where you're not given choice. That's a basically thing where choices are removed from you as a child, and you don't know anything, you're dumb, so I'm going to tell you, you just do what I tell you to do. So when you grow up like that, anger gets built.
That's true.
So that anger has to be let out somewhere.
Yes.
And in such a scenario, especially for boys, when porn is introduced, so porn gives you the VIP experience of unleashing anger. Why even on a, why mob violence or some violent movies or things like that, why do we watch violent stuff? Why do a lot of people love violent movies? Why every movie has violent scenes? Is because it gives you a collective release as you sit and watch, where the hero punches the,
you imagine yourself
yeah, there, and all your pent up thing unconsciously, you have this thing of, oh, I can identify, that's how I want to, that's how I feel like. So this pent up anger in you because of your rigid family system has to be released somewhere. And when you are, so that makes a bully out of you. So, but just in case that kid again is being bullied in school as well, yeah, so again anger is built up there. So in such scenarios, when porn enters, such a kid, statistically they are saying, such a boy would look for porn, kind of content of porn where the man is abusing the woman. And so the power narrative is, okay, I am that man. Finally, I have someone to abuse. In real life, life is abusing me. But at least in this world of sexual fantasy, I get to be the powerful person. I get to be the person who is punching in somebody's face and nobody is there to fight back or question. So that is the problem. So anger, as far as rigid families are concerned, as far as disengaged families are concerned, care is neglected. So needs are not met. So those needs turn into lusts, cravings, start looking for it. And there somebody comes and meets those needs, and that opens a door for them to abuse. So all these things are to do with how relationally broken you are, and how it is making you feel powerless, and how the unwanted sexual behavior, the story connected to your unwanted sexual behavior, is making you feel powerful in some way, giving you a sense of control, sense of choice, which you're not given as a child.
Children who grew up in a rigid family, they used to split into two groups. Like one would be a rebel, one becomes rebel. I can't follow these instructions. Another becomes a golden, child. So whatever happens, I'm going to pretend as if everything goes well.
Get good marks.
Yeah, scoring good marks, achieving, getting gold medals or doing stuffs. So
Pray,
yeah,
get first mark in Bible quiz.
yeah, that happens. So these splitting of groups, so that in that family it becomes good, is a good boy, is a bad boy, and that child develops a split identity, like one part is good, another part is bad. So he or she tends to hide that
Hide that
bad part,
bad and shameful part.
and
Yes.
feel shame about it.
So yeah, the golden boy syndrome is pretty real, because in my personal life, I have seen my dad. Actually, basically, my dad was an alcoholic. I mean, so he used to. I mean, I have grown up watching my mom and dad fighting often in our home, and I mean, our relatives used to come and solve the issue, resolve the issue. I mean, that puts a lot of shame in us, and especially with me. And I have developed this golden boy syndrome, like, I mean, nice guy syndrome. Like, I do not want to be like my dad. So I have developed a persona, a false persona, to show it to everyone, or I try to please everyone, so that I get, oh, Saravana, he's a very nice guy. I have never seen him. I like posting a threat to anyone, something like that. When I found out that it was a trauma response, I mean, it was like when God, or through my healing journey, when I identified it is not actually the true self of mine, but it is a false persona that I
It's a safety
developed.
mechanism.
Yeah, safety mechanism. And I mean, it is a trauma response basically, because watching my mom and dad fighting, and that puts you under so much pressure and shame. Out of that trauma, I developed it as in response to be nice to everyone, and that kept us in bondage for a long time. I mean, likewise, I mean, it is easy for the rebel child to come out of any addiction, but it is not easy for this guy who adopted being a nice to everyone or being a golden child of the family to come out of his addiction.
Because
I
the
mean,
child denies that
yeah,
everything.
denies everything. He suppresses his needs. He's not able to voice out what he is feeling, what he wants, his desires, needs, anything. So for him to come out of the struggles that he has would be difficult than the rebel.
Precisely for the reason that child was never allowed to have any struggle. Because you're a golden child, you're not having any problem. That the other brother is a rebel, he's the black sheep of the house. Yeah, I know he drinks and smokes and he goes and goofs around. But this guy. So you're never allowed to have weakness. So that shame makes them go deeper. So many times the golden boys' sexual perversion in terms of their fantasies or the kind of porn that they watch is much more than the other guy who goes out.
Is this the same as triangulation? If it
Triangulation is different. Triangulation is where emotional enmeshment with a parent happens because of their brokenness in their marriage. So when a dad and a mom, they are not connected in their marriage, usually a dad might become emotionally enmeshed with the daughter and the mom might be emotionally enmeshed with the son. So the child becomes this superficial image that they have in their mind of what their spouse is supposed to be. But it looks very subtle, it looks very kind, it looks very loving on the outside. Oh, this is my child, you're only there for me, you're my world. It might look like that. Nothing wrong with these words. But when it comes from a place of healing and wholeness, when the parents tell this to the child feels poured into. But when the same words come from the place of lack, as from the parent side, the child feels sucked out of. So that's the main difference. Are we pouring into the child or are we receiving from the child? Because the child is never designed to meet the emotional needs of the parent.
Yeah, we start
Until
to keep.
otherwise the child becomes an adult.
Yes. That's where I think we start to keep our parents' need first before our needs itself.
So the internalization happens for the child. So when two parents are fighting, the child thinks something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with me. That's why they are fighting. So that's the whole. Why that happens? Because God designed family to be wholesome, so that the child feels, oh, I'm special. They're all happy, right? So that's the design. Then the twistedness happens, and when chaos happens, the child thinks I am the reason.
So when it comes to a place when the child is when the child becomes an adult and now the adult wants to talk about all this to their parents and
many times you don't get to speak to the parents because the parents don't have a clue of what you're talking about. Even today I was speaking to one adult and how she was talking about how she tried to speak to her parents and her parents simply said half of the stuff they denied. I could have never done these things. Right? The pain is too much for the mind to even remember that they could have done something like that to the kid. Second thing is, we did much better than what we were handed by our parents. That's the other thing. So when it comes to dealing with all these things, what we require is the clarity of how honor and honesty goes together. I might help him. I might have helped him a lot. But if I'm going to step on his legs right now, it's still going to pain. It doesn't deny the fact that I have helped him in his life. But currently, when my foot is on his toe, pinky toe, it's going to be super painful. Right? And for him to open his mouth and say, you stamping on my toe is super painful, is not him denying I did something good in his life.
That's true.
Or is not him dishonoring me. So honor and honesty has to go together. In the name called honor your parents, we are never honest about the pain that we experienced because of their brokenness. And whenever our honor and honesty is confused like that, we can never go into a deeper healing or a wholesome journey, because how do we even heal if we are not willing to acknowledge pain?
I think
That's what one author said. A genuine maturity is the ability to hold both honor and honesty together.
Which is the most difficult thing to do, actually.
my understanding from this is even therapeutically there is a lot of therapies that address the inner child and what the inner child feels, right? So I think as adults we grow up and understand what had happened to the child back then, and we justify the acts of what parents had done and their situations. We try to understand and things like that, but the child who went through that pain is still in pain, right? We fail to address the pain of the child.
Yes, personally, I grew up from, I kind of say it was rigid, and at the same time it was a disengaged background. So when
is there any connection between our sexual fantasies and how we have experienced our immediate relationship in our childhood? Is there any connection, or it? I mean,
Yeah,
it
she
is
was
totally
saying that,
different.
yes, because I was grown up in a very kind of rigid and at the same time disengaged family, and no love, care, and affection from the family. In midst of all the violent marriage and broken marriage, more broken family, growing up in a child, seeing all those things, it was like, okay, what's happening around me? What is happening? It was clueless. What's my identity? Who am I? Why I came into this world? Why does this happen to me? Nothing, clueless. It was when it was that 2, 3, 4 age, and at that point. So, but we didn't receive that love. I need that joy. I need that touch. I need that hug and kiss, but I didn't get. So I started getting from someone, whoever comes very close or just come to see us, or the nearby people, or whoever I travel in my school or college. I used to get very attracted and try to get their attention, and I'll be longing that they'll tell me, okay, you're beautiful,
touch you,
yeah,
give you a hug.
give me a hug. And at the same time imagining my own world, whatever, like how I want, how my family want, how I want a person to touch me and hug me and kiss me, or just sit and talk to me. So it started like imagining myself as a world, as a scene where I can recreate with my mom and dad. But it was not mom and dad, it was some other person. The person can be anyone. It can be in some who's with me, or some other person, random person who I see and who I fall for them, or and eventually that imagination, it will develop into some fantasies where it's lots of adventurous things are happening, more sexual acts are happening, and it in for me sometimes it has ended in an unconscious arousals, and each and every day it was like that.
So when that happens, so you are having these fantasies, you're having these arousals. At the end of the day, how do you feel?
Yeah, when I come out of it, and see the real world, and nothing is there, and I didn't get that pleasure from that world, I feel like, okay, then this is not my world. And again, at the same time, I'll be, that pleasure is there and some happiness is there, and at the same time this guilt is there. Okay,
Guilt
this
and
shouldn't
shame is
have happened, but why it's happening? But at the second day, I need that pleasure, I need that hormones, that happy releasing hormones. So it was like a cycle, it was keep on going, because I didn't know what is my identity. The sexuality is my identity, this is
So when
it.
the shame gets twisted with the sexual arousal, that's where the cocktail is, right? And that shame begins to form a narrative about who you are.
So I started giving myself, this is I am this, I am this person. So many I am
I
attached
am
to
not
my,
pure.
yeah, I am
and
not
all
pure,
these
I am
things
not
come.
worthy, yeah, I am not celebrated. And
So everybody who is involved in some form of unwanted sexual behavior knows that the pleasure is few seconds. The contempt, self-contempt and self-hatred is for days.
Yeah.
yes,
So it is a very inaccurate saying that people who are involved in unwanted sexual behavior are involved for pleasure.
Yeah.
yes,
Because
true.
pleasure is few seconds. Self-contempt and shame and self-loathing is for days. So how can we be so dumb?
So you mean to say we don't feel shame because we are into some unwanted sexual behavior. We are involved in the very act because we are
We are
have an attachment
we are
to the same.
recreating scenarios to reaffirm our shame narratives of who we are.
Okay.
That's so deep.
Is it attached to our our parents? They carrying the same.
Yeah,
and
it definitely generational, in many
pass-
in times in terms of there is this cultural shame.
taking that identity from them, that identity. And
Yeah. And so shame reenactment is the main word that people don't see it or understand it. It is reenacting, recreating stories either through fantasy or through actions, which would reaffirm and confirm the narrative of the I am nots.
So generally, we are not into those acts for pleasure,
Yeah.
but to reenact those same
Shame
narratives.
Yeah.
Okay.
So shame reenactment or a reversal of roles where you're feeling so, powerless in your real life, and you through these narratives you're having
gain power, yes,
feeling powerful. So that is reacting. These reenacting. So are you reacting to your real life or reenacting your shame narrative? These are the two main things that you have to explore while you are engaging.
Okay.
There was this one story where this she had a series of sexual abuse, and she had so much anger against men. So she would just have random relationships just to cheat on them. I'm having power over men.
Okay. She wants to reverse.
React to this
Yeah.
feeling powerless thing. So usually for men it's like that in my data, and women it's more of reenactment. But there are always the exception as well.
So looking at
So when we talk about the men who grew up with the strict fathers, they used to watch porn. We talked about it. What about the women who grew up with the strict mothers? They used to. I read one study. They said the women who grew up with the strict mothers, they used to watch porn where that harm has been done to that woman. they used to have the fantasies also, like the harms being done to them.
They're
like
becoming submissive.
Somerset, yeah.
The arousal for them
Ah,
is in them being mistreated,
okay.
in not being celebrated.
Mm.
The arousal is in them being mistreated. So when they get married, and if they get a husband who would celebrate them, they can't stand it.
Yes. Yes.
So looking at all these,
And for them, it is so dark, right? What is in their mind?
Yeah.
For them to open their mouth and say, I'm not feeling sexually aroused by what you do. I'm having this dark, that's such a shameful thing. And if the guy doesn't have a clue,
what is going on with her?
and he'll be like, why the hell would you want me to do that to you? Right? So this is so twisted and broken. And when people don't have language, this can become super shameful. So approaching this fully from a symptomatic therapeutic thing is such a relieving thing for people, rather than from a moralistic paradigm. And unless you change your view of God and gospel, you can never do that.
Yeah. So our sexual brokenness is not random.
Exactly. Yeah.
It always has a reason.
It has a
What makes you kick has a reason.
and
So there was this guy who was telling, I keep searching for porn about elderly women. And what's your origin story? I was this young guy who was sitting in the bus, and there was this elderly lady who came and touched my thigh, and I felt a rush in my body. That's all happened. Okay. So, but the sexual arousal pattern was set by an elderly lady. So he felt sexually aroused, shame. So when shame and sexual arousal, we'll talk more about this when we're talking about sexual abuse as such. But today, in this session, we want to talk about the parental aspect of things, how it shapes the sexual fantasies and what we look for. But as you said, it is never random, even though it looks, people at the beginning, they're like, what has got my parents to do with the kind of porn search that I'm having? Your parental history, your sexual first origin story, and your sexual history, and your current unmet needs, and your browser history. All these things are connected.
So in both rigid family system and in disengaged family system, the kids were not able to see their parents as a safe place.
Yeah.
So they start to hide stories, their struggles, because they were not able to open up to their parents, because they were too harsh, or they were too disengaged. And because of that, someone who gains trust in their family start to manipulate, groom these kids, and their sexual happens at that point of time, because their needs are getting met through that person who gains their trust.
That's right. That's right. So as you're talking, I'm able to see that in the case of disengaged families and rigid families, there is an opportunity for the kid to feel abandoned, lonely, and frustrated about not having anybody to feel safe with and loved with, right? So in the case of triangulation, there is an opportunity for the child to feel that every part of their life has the parent in it.
Yeah.
And
Then the question is, what is triangulation? I mean,
yes.
there is an emotional investment, like when the spouse doesn't have a healthy connection between them, they try to fill that gap with the children, and the child become their idol. I mean, they will use them to fill that emotional void that is not, emotional need that is not met through the spouse, and they will try to fill it through the children. And childrens will feel suffocated. Like we have a phrase, dad's little princess. I mean, yeah, my boy, my world, my girl, my world, and I see my children as my friend. Generally, all these things are, not seen in a different lens, but it is actually an reflection of how they are experiencing their spouse. Like
How
they,
they want to
yeah, how they
experience
want to
their
experience
spouse.
their
Yeah,
spouse. So they use childrens to fill those emotional needs, and the childrens become their idol.
that's right.
And that's where this triangulation happens, and children feel suffocated. They don't have words, or they can't express how they are feeling it. Definitely, childrens are not designed, God has not designed them to be treated that way. Spouse has to be, wife and husband has to have a healthy connection, and that should be reflected by both of them pouring themselves out in children's life rather than sucking that emotional thing from them. So that's how the triangulation is formed,
And we
probably.
see this in our culture. It's happening a lot. I
Yeah.
think the opposite. The dads being connected with the girls and the moms being connected with, even after marriage, they are having a hold on to the uh, adults, the men, and how it distracts the marriage. After marriage, it plays a huge role in
Having
that.
said to
Yeah.
have that responsibility to take care of the parents
Yeah.
and have them, in the same house and live with
Yeah.
them. It's causing a lot of conflicts within marriages because of that.
Yeah, we are never saying that kids are not supposed to take care of the parents, not help them, not be there for them, or not spend time. No. We are saying if we are healthy adults, that then we would have a life to live of our own without the need for someone else to be there for us to live our life. So when that personal boundary is missing or becoming blurred, that's where a connection becomes an enmeshment,
Enmeshment. Yeah.
where we do not know where the parent ends and where the child begins. It's no longer a healthy connection. So there are different things, right? Unhealthy independence. Unhealthy independence is totally disconnected. I don't need you, you don't need me. That is unhealthy independence. Then unhealthy dependence is what we call it as enmeshment, where I cannot live without you. It's a leech kind of relationship, parasitical relationship, where you need to suck the blood out of someone to live. That is unhealthy dependence. So Trinity is healthy dependence. The Father depends on the Son depends on the Father by voluntary choice. I am not here to do the will of me, I am here to do the will of my Father. That is voluntary submission and dependence. That is healthy dependence. That is Trinitarian. And that's our design. So broken sexuality happens when the parents are disconnected and they enmesh with their kid and they live through their kid. And in many cases, if there is enmeshment, if the mom is super connected with the son will almost end up in a divorce or be in a separated state. The son will be taking the mom everywhere out, hardly visit the wife, never have time, and would have super problems with porn. And on the outside, we might be thinking he's a
Good
fantastic
child.
son, taking care of the mom even in the old age.
Yeah.
This triangulation doesn't mean like the parents are touching the private parts.
Yes.
Like that.
Sexually abusing like that.
It's completely emotional.
But it's a emotional adultery.
Yes.
So they start to involve in every decision their kids are making. So, and they want to be in every part of their lives. So that that breaks the marriage, that breaks the kids' identity, their self-identity,
which is sexuality.
sexuality. Yeah.
So there
So
should be
when
clear
God,
boundaries.
so
In
when
the
God
roles
created,
and
so when God created mankind, He didn't create a one bedroom in the corner of a heaven. Just told the Gabriel, fix a bathroom there itself so that I can have these fellows here itself. But instead, He created a whole earth.
In fact, cosmos.
Yeah, cosmos, a physical dimension.
Yeah, physical dimension.
And gave access to the spiritual dimension. Father was always available for Adam and Eve. Presence was never closed. But in some sense, God visited him in the evening. There is this presence of God all the time, but there is some sense the personal interaction is in a particular time of the day, and Adam is given autonomy, choice, power, authority to rule and manage a dimension of his life, which God supports from outside, so to speak. So man shall leave his parents and then cleave. So cleaving is the sexual union. So cleaving can never happen before leaving happens. So many have not left. So cleaving never happens. And when we do this, when we have this ceremony of cutting the umbilical cord of adults, men cry a lot. Yeah. And
That's a beautiful revelation, actually speaking, because God itself has modeled how parenting needs to be. right?
family, marriage, everything God is modeling in Trinity. The more and more you look deeply into Trinity and think about all aspects of Trinity, you understand humanity.
And particularly, he didn't involve in wife's decision, taking part in that fruit.
Yeah, children's become confused. I mean, I have personally experienced it. Like, I feel that I've not been given the freedom that I deserve from my parents because they are controlling. They get to decide, or because of, they get to decide what I must be doing, how I must
How you
behave,
manage your finances.
manage my finances, so and so. So I feel suffocated that I've not been given the freedom. But at the same time, when I detach from them, I'll feel, am I not being responsible? How am I supposed to leave my parents like that? I feel shameful, or I will have that feeling like, regret or something that again condemns or puts me in the same. So that again becomes confusing. So we need to have the eyes, or we need to have the clear vision of how God created the family and the boundaries that we must honor. And when we put those things in place, we would be having that family that God has in His mind.
Yeah, whenever we think we are smarter than God, it never works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. So, having said all of these things, is there a hope to, have and experience freedom from sexual brokenness?
So for me, the hope hangs on the fact that God is so committed to sex that He has not pulled the plug off after the fall, and He has kept sexuality alive even after so much brokenness and so much pain that it causes. He's never given up on that idea, and He's still committed to it. And that is one big thing of hope. Second thing is the gospel in itself, of how He stepped into our brokenness and owned our mess and heals us by owning all of the mess. So the gospel gives hope. Thirdly, people who have taken the gospel seriously and gone on this journey, their stories them itself become a gospel story. And that gives hope. Right? So now in our community, we have so many of couples who've gone through this journey and who have seen significant healing and freedom, who has restored their relationship with themselves and their spouse. As a result, they are able to enjoy their marriage and sex and parenting and all those things. It brings lot of hope. Yeah, more than any other part of the time, we are more hopeful right now because of what we are seeing in the community.
I was hopeless when I was struggling with this unwanted sexual behaviors. So I was trying prayer. I was thinking if I've been baptized, I'll come out of it. But nothing helped. But as Anna said, he presented a gospel where Jesus is in our brokenness. Our sexual brokenness is the geographical place of Jesus. When I start to experience that, when I start to see that, and I when I become a vulnerable and I shared my story with a safe place, with this safe community, I started to experience that freedom. So I would say owning your story without blame and shame will lead you to the path of freedom, and there's hope.
And whenever you're hopeless, you're believing a lie.
Thank you so much for sharing whatever you guys did. It was amazing. It was mind blowing facts for most of us, I guess, because we have told ourselves a lie. We've been thinking about a lot of things which is not true. So to hear that this is how things can be seen, to have a different perspective itself is a great thing. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing whatever you did. Thank you.